What is my definition of happiness?
I don't know, always nearly made me cry, because when I think about it, it's just such a beautiful place to be. And I can honestly say that I'm not 100% there yet, but I know what unhappiness is. So, and I think once you get to a point of rock bottom, which I think everyone gets to, and everyone's story is their story, I think happiness is the opposite of that. So we certainly know what unhappy is, and lots of people have been there. And I suppose happiness for me would mean that rather than wake up with regret and, you know, living in a space of fear and living in a place where my life is out of control and I'm not making good decisions, the opposite would be in a happy place you would be making the right decisions for you, and you'd be waking up, you know, with purpose and doing things that you love and enjoy and surrounded by the people that you enjoy doing them with. And that would define happiness for me. So I can't say that I'm 100% there, but there's certainly things that bring me happiness. The main thing is to give to yourself. I don't think you can give from an empty cup, and I've tried to do that many times before. So self-love is important, to be able to understand the things that make you happy and do them a lot, even if that's hiking, if it's hanging out with friends. For me, it's spending time with my daughter. It's like being in a job where I'm giving to others. They're some of the things that bring me the greatest joy in life. So I find if I'm doing them for myself, then I'm able to show up in a better place for other people. So that's generally what makes me happy, is to see other people happy or to add value to people's lives. And you can't do that when you're operating from an unhappy place. It's actually impossible. And I think people can feel that energy that you would be giving off if you were in an unhappy place compared to someone who is actually in a happy place.
I think my definition of happiness is being with my wife and being with my kids and doing things we want to be doing. And we've got a lot of interests. There's lots of things we like doing, whether it be something on the water, you know, fishing on the boat, travelling, exercise, bike riding. Regardless of what we're doing, I don't care which one of those things we're doing or if we're doing something completely different, but generally for me, as long as I'm with them, my wife and my girls, I'm completely happy. The world could be coming to an end, but as long as I'm with those three individuals, I'm completely happy. It doesn't matter what else is going on.
I think all the big lessons for me in my life, when things have been taken away from me, it's forced me to look back within. And I think that's where it always was. It's just I tended to look outwards for happiness, as in the people, you know, like you got to find a hot girlfriend, or, you know, you need money to be happy, or I need to be traveling, or I need to have materialistic things in my life in order to be happy. And you know, when I had all those things and then had all those things, you know, slowly remove themselves back out of my life over time, then you realise that, you know, they were never the things that brought you happiness, because having all those things, I wasn't happy. So I suppose I was responsible for believing that those things would make me happy. Is there a little bit of blame on society and social media? I suppose, you know, yes, there is. I think as a young man these days, looking at social media, and we're looking at comparing ourselves to others and people cruising around in Lambos and going flying over to, you know, Thailand and doing photo shoots and, you know, having a hot girlfriend and, you know, looking or perceived to having, you know, all the things in life that make you happy. I can say I had all those things and, you know, I wasn't happy. So happiness comes from self, and that's being aligned with your purpose, and it's being true to your morals and ethics and values in life. And I think a massive thing that comes from being true to yourself, is the people that you find you surrounded yourself are more like your tribe of people as well. You're not pretending to be someone that you're actually not, and finding yourself in places and around people that don't reflect your best self. Yeah.
Some people are lost souls, and they're travelling through life trying to find what that one thing is. As long as they get there in the end, you know, everyone's got different pathways through life. I guess I'm lucky enough. I'm very grounded, and I know what makes me happy, and I know what's important to make me happy. And for me, it's very simple. For everybody, it's not that simple. But as long as you can eventually find that one thing that makes you happy, like I said, whether it be family, whether it be fitness, whether it be, you know, oil painting, whatever it might be, for a lot of people it's music, things like that. As long as you know what that is, and if you don't know what that is, as long as you can eventually find what that is, again, gets back to the, like I said before, you could be stranded on a deserted island. If you had that one thing, you could be happy.
I think happiness is a commitment to life. I think it's in that commitment you have to be able to apply probably a filter, I think. You know, I think it's an unwavering desire to be a certain way in the face of whatever you encounter. Because, you know, shit is always going to happen. Shit is always going to happen. Life's full of shit happening all the time. But of course, while that's happening, sometimes in the middle of that happening, there are small things. So I think that focus is the ability to focus on the small things that can bring you pleasure or joy. It might be a cup of coffee. It might be one of your kids chortling, or like looking at your child sleeping. You know, it might be, I don't know, seeing a flower in the garden, pushing up in the middle of winter, or it might be looking out on the sea, whether it's in the middle of winter and there's a storm coming in. You know, even though the storm's coming in, it's, you know, there's beauty in that. You know, even though you know it's going to do damage, it's still beautiful. I think that's what happiness is. Happiness is that ability to be able to seek and find those. You know, it's like you're foraging. You go through life. You know, you're going to encounter people. You're going to encounter situations that aren't pleasant. You're going to be put in. You know, you're going to be put in positions that require you to summon your resolve. You're going to fail. You're going to make mistakes. You're going to, you know, you're going to have high highs. You're going to have low lows. It's like, you know, it's your ability to resurrect yourself and orientate yourself. And for me, it's your ability to find these small things along the way that just light a part of you up, and letting that be there regardless of what's going on. It's a bit like the seasons, you know. I love summer. I love the hot. You know, I love the sun. I love going down the beach. It makes me happy when things are warm. You know, I like being in the sea. I like, you know, and then so now, you know, it's solstice this weekend. So for me, it's cold, you know. And then I was out in the garden the other day, and there's little sunflowers that we planted late, and they're still flowering. I'm like, that's great. Look at that. Go, you know. There's a little smile in me going like, great. You know, the sun's going to come back. See, the sunflower's still here. It's the dark of winter. It's the shortest day of the year is Saturday, you know. A smile. Or, it's 4 in the morning and, my 4-year-old comes and wakes me up and he wants to go to the toilet and he wants a drink. And, of course, I say, just turn the light on. And he says, I'm scared. And he starts to cry. And then he wakes his brother up. And then they're both awake. And then, all right, we do a toilet stop. We get a glass of water. One goes to sleep and the other one's awake for 3 hours, until about 5. And then I have to get up at 6:30. I'm like, oh, yeah. But, he's happy. He's jumping on me, smiling. I'm like, oh, it's not too bad. It could be worse. He could be screaming, and so you're falling in and out of sleep and you're like, oh, well, I'm going to get up tired. But, you're not thinking about, oh, well, I'm not thinking about the myriad of things. I'm like, oh, well, that's nice. Look at him. I've only got this bit of time with him, 10 years from now he'll be a boy and 20 years from now he'll be a man and I'll remember this time. So it's like, oh, well, there's my little sunflower in the cold. So I think I don't know whether that's an internal thing or it's a learned thing or it's a cultivation. I do think maybe it's a bit of all of those things. And, I'd probably look towards that as being, resilience. And, when I take that further back, it's probably from, an early life where there weren't things to make you happy. It was up to you to find happiness in the things or in your life or in all of whatever it was you're doing. So maybe that's a part of it from my early life. I think those things have carried on for me. Just going out and having adventures and whatever. Letting yourself spontaneously connect with what's around you. I think those things have carried on for me. But, maybe they're from just having a really simple childhood.
I think once you can pull yourself out of a couple of really shitty spots, I think you can see that things are only temporary rather than it be, oh my God, my life's about to end, which I think when we're younger, when, challenges start to happen, we do think that. But I think a little bit of wisdom kicks in when you're older and think, well, challenges will always happen to you and your life will always be up and down. But I think it's how you can handle yourself and just concentrate on the things that you can control, because those are uncontrollables in life. I mean, you can have someone pass away, you can have someone, in your family die of cancer, you can have all these challenges around you. But it's really how you're able to respond to those things. Like you can respond in anger and spiral off and go and take drugs and alcohol, which is something, I've done in my past, and that takes you on a particular path, which is destructive more than it is, constructive. So I think as things happen to me now, I'm able to sit with them and just go, look, this is uncomfortable, this is challenging for me. How can I show up in the best possible way, even though, this is not the best possible scenario, knowing in the back of your mind that this situation will be completely temporary. And flying off the handle and doing, things that aren't your best self is not going to help the situation. That's only going to probably make the situation worse. But I had to go and do all those things to understand that the things that I did to myself when things were challenging were actually, that was not constructive. And unfortunately, that road led to more pain. I think we can just be responsible for how we act and react to certain challenges in life. That's really on you. Like we can all be woe me and, the world hates me and I blame everyone else for my scenario. But to be honest, if I sat in with a room of people and went around and asked them all for their particular story, I'm sure every single one of those people in that room would have been through a particular challenge if we put ourselves in that certain situation that would have been, like hell. You know what I mean? And we've all got a story. It's just the people that are doing well in life are the people that are able to react and act, in an integral way and in a good way, even through some of life's greatest challenges.
As you get older, you get wiser in life, and for me, as you know, as you get older, sure, life becomes a lot more complex in a lot of different ways. You know, you get busier and, you know, your responsibilities change and things like that. But in a lot of ways, the flip side, as you get older, life becomes a lot simpler. And I guess what I mean by that is, as you get older, what is important to you becomes a lot clearer. You know, I remember back when I was in my 20s, there were a million things in my life that were important to me, and I probably couldn't nail it down to any one thing. But now I'm mid-40s with a wife and 2 beautiful kids. So for me, it's all become very simple. And lots of people say that. You know, you would have heard it before you have kids. Lots of people say, you know, wait till we have kids, everything falls into perspective. And that's certainly been the case for me. You know, once you have kids, life becomes pretty clear, I think. As long as you're true to them and they're what means the world to you, then, yeah, it's become pretty simple for me.
It has to be freedom for me. When I'm free to do the things that I would like to do and the people that I like to do them with, that's my greatest happiness. Whenever I feel trapped and pushed into a place where I don't want to be and I don't feel like I have freedom, I think that is the most unhappiness for me. It might be very different to other people, but, you know, happiness is certainly like more aligned with freedom to me, and freedom of choice about, you know, what I'm doing with my life and the things that I, you know, and the people that I'm doing those particular things that bring me joy with. And that's happiness.
So happiness, you know, I think I definitely cultivate a lot of that. You know, as an adult in my partnership, I you know, we make sure that we're doing things together. We make sure that we're praising each other, and we're, you know, cultivating things that are good, and seeing those things in each other and seeing those things in our life and speaking about them. And, you know, of course, there's challenges. We speak about those too. And, you know, there's ups and downs, you know, but they're not, you know, all things are impermanent. So you might as well be happy.